He's saying there's plenty of down risk left for the economy.
Well, does that mean we haven't hit the bottom yet? And does it mean that another rate cut is coming? Let's ask our Fox panel about it. Going first to Huron Brook. Huron, you got the sense, didn't you, that in fact the Fed wasn't finished cutting rates? And there is even talk, we should mention it's a small percent, but talk that there might be a 0.75% cut in the Fed funds rate. What would that do to our economy?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're concerned primarily in bailing out the banks and bailing out the financial institutions. If they really want to get credit flowing in this economy, what they need is massive deregulation of the financial markets, not the increased regulation that they're proposing. What that's going to do to the economy when you lower interest rates like they are right now into an environment where PPI yesterday was at the highest rate in 26 years, it's more inflation or more inflationary, more misallocations of capital, more distortions into this economy. You're not going to get the kind of economic growth, the healthy economic growth that we'd all like to see.
Let me read a viewer email that just came in about this inflation issue. This is from Lucy in Washington State. She said, inflation is a big concern out here in flyover country, and a large garden and a wood-burning stove are about all we have as far as answers are concerned to this problem. So, Peter, you know, people are really feeling it. But I'm also interested in the aspect about the credit cards where he's now suddenly deciding that he's seen God here and is real, oh, boy, credit card companies might be too tough on people at this point where people are suffering anyway.
Well, the credit card companies are going to get a lot tougher. And if the government tries to stop that, see, what's happening now is credit cards are looking at all their exposure to all this debt. A lot of people have credit cards and, you know, they now have negative equity in their homes. And credit card companies are worrying about people charging up money that they can't afford to repay. So they're starting to cut back on people's limits, you know, reduce their credit lines. And now the government is thinking, hey, this isn't fair, you know, you're changing the rules of the game midstream. But credit card companies have always reserved the right not only to lower the limit, but to say, hey, you have to pay up in full right now.
Yeah,
and if we cut down on
sneaky, though, they've raised interest rates.
Interest rates, which is a usury rate.
Just talked to somebody today who said that her husband missed one payment and immediately it jumped up to 31% as far as the interest rate.
That's how you get in trouble, because you could never pay that rate. That's what a loan shark charges.
Sure,
I mean, for crying out loud.
But Tom, is it possible that what Bernanke is trying to do is to head off the regulators at the pass? That is, you hear a lot of talk inside of Congress of even more draconian sort of measures to cut back on what credit card companies and mortgage lenders, frankly, can do. And Ben Bernanke, by putting this out there, is saying, look, I've got my eye on it. I'm doing something about it. Congress doesn't have to leap into the fray.
Yeah, and the Federal Reserve has control over more than just interest rates. They can do a lot of things. However, the thing that drives me crazy, and I was watching some of the testimony today, and I think everybody here will kind of agree with this, the thing that really scares me the most watching Ben Bernanke speak to Congress is not Ben Bernanke. It's Congress. It's amazing how stupid these people are. And look, I don't say this like gratuitously. They're really not that smart about economics. They don't know what they're doing. The best thing the federal government could do, stop spending money on stupid things that don't work, lower taxes, get rid of the AMT. These are easy things. You want to spur the economy on. You know, even sometimes I think the Federal Reserve is trying to overcompensate for the mistakes of the federal government, and you're putting the Federal Reserve in a can't-win position. Look, Bernanke, I think, is doing the best he can. But I really think a lot of this goes back to the federal policy, how much money we're spending, where we're spending it, how we're spending it, and how we're taxing it.
Yoron, at one point, he did have to say to one of the Congress people who asked a question, I can't actually get us back to the silver standard or the gold standard. You know, that's not my job. That's actually your job.
That's actually, yeah, that's right. I mean, I wish Congress would take him up on that and get us back to the gold standard. That would save us a lot of these problems and get us back to a proper gold standard of private banking and economic growth. You talk about overheating the economy. Economic growth can be at 9–10% with no inflation, and that's what you get on a gold standard. So 19th century was a wonderful time of economic growth. You know, the mythology that you portrayed.
It was wonderful.
We've changed a little bit, though, haven't we, since then?
We had a gold standard.
Hold on.
We had a gold standard when we had the 1929 stock market crash. And it constrained the Fed. The Fed was not able to cut interest rates because if it had cut interest rates, there would be a run on all the gold in this country. Foreigners would come take their gold out. And that was precisely what caused the Depression. If we went back on the gold standard.
Peter?
like Lioron says,
Peter.
we'd have the depression.
Go ahead.
What happened was we got the Federal Reserve in 1913. The Fed kept interest rates much too low during the 1920s to help out Great Britain.
Rookie mistake.
They basically ignited the stock market bubble that burst. Had we stayed on an honest gold standard without the Federal Reserve, we never would have had the bubble of the 1920s, and we never would have had a depression. No, the depression was created by Hoover and Roosevelt and their government.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Go ahead, Tom.
Now you're onto something. Federal policies screw things up. Whether you have a gold standard or a Federal Reserve, the government can make it impossible for either one of them to function. If the government makes massive mistakes like taxing too much, spending too much,
but Tom, if the government can't print money, which is what the Federal Reserve has the authority to do, and the Congress, if they are stuck to keeping the currency based on the amount of gold that we have in reserves, they can't spend as much as they are now.
Yeah, but the problem is that we're creating much more wealth than we have gold to represent it. That's why you need a Federal Reserve instead of a gold standard.
That's a good point.
Exactly. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it's done. It's exactly the reason why. What do you mean ridiculous? It's exactly the reason why.
All right.